Ready Check Radio. What's up, Internet? It's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That means I'll just cut the music. Let's just make sure everything works here. Let's cut the music. Can we hear my guests? Dylan.
Mic check 1, 2.
Yes, Travis.
I'm here, baby.
All right, it's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We didn't break everything this time. Hopefully it'll stay that way. The record button decided not to nuke it. Here on Ready Check Radio, of course, that means it's time for the Relic Grind, our Final Fantasy XIV / Square Enix podcast. We're on the eve of Final Fantasy trading card games Beyond Destiny set being released officially. Pre-release was last weekend, so people have been pulling boxes and cracking packs already, but officially it comes out tomorrow. That means it's time for one of my favorite shows. It's when I get some of my friends and we sit down and we talk through all 14 legends in the set, giving you our early takes, sure to be wrong, and we have chat chiming in with their opinions as well. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Audible or Spotify or anything like that, thank you. Thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications, review it, all that good stuff. Feed the algorithms. Excuse me. And of course, head on over to ReadyCheckRadio.com. You might see a Ready Check Games tab there now. Something maybe worth taking a look at in the future. Joining me to go over all kinds of fun stuff today, you know him, you love him, it's Dylan the Villain Camacho. What's up, sir?
Time for some more accurate descriptions of these legendary cards. I can't
100% accurate.
Hey, how'd the demon do, everybody?
He was great.
The demon was pretty good, man.
I don't know.
Pretty good.
I stopped playing Final Fantasy. I started playing Lorcana. I have no idea how good he
There
actually
you go.
How's the demon doing in your Lorcana deck?
Bro, it's
surprising the hell out of people.
Children. It scares the children, that's for sure.
Also on the line to chat cards, Mr. Travis Pfeiffer. What's up, sir? How are you?
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, you already did your full set review videos. Where can people find those?
Check those out on my YouTube channel. You can search for Travis Rudros Pfeiffer or Ghoster88. Should pop up either one of those. And yeah, just got them finished with Jared from Japan. So fun back and forth discussion of all the cards in the set.
Yeah, always fun. Now, I have not watched them yet because I didn't want to know your opinions on the legends going into this show. I certainly will watch them afterwards. And I'm too lazy to skip the legends in the video. You know, I just like to put that on and just listen. Just do my work and have it listen. Yeah, Digimon and FFTC's TCG sets drop at the same time. And so does set 2 for Lorcana, basically. Yeah. So it's just
cardboard.
Yeah,
crazy weekend.
Yeah, Sorcery Beta is doing its thing, and just like there's a lot of TCG love out there, gents. But we know we don't want to be here all day. Let's take a look at the legends. We're gonna kick it off first with the Fire Legends. We'll take them in the elemental numerical order that they come in. We've got 3-drop Fire Forward Cyan from Cat 6, of course, a Samurai, 7k power. When he enters the field, you can pay X. When you do so, you get a crystal for each X that you spent. The minimum you can pay, or the maximum you can pay, is 5 CP. And he's got 3 different action abilities. 1 crystal gets Cyan 3k power till the end of the turn. 1 crystal gets any forward 3k damage. And 5 crystals can be spent to deal 9k damage to all the forward's opponent controls, so a one-sided 9k hit. And I gotta say, gents, in pre-release, this cat was a monster when somebody picked it, when somebody pulled it. I mean, it's just, right? You don't have to dull it for a board clear. And so you just play it, spend 5, get 5 crystals if you hadn't gotten any previously, right? Which there is crystal generation in the set, so you may have snagged 1 or 2 already, which makes them even cheaper. And then it's a board clear, which in pre-release I've heard is pretty good. You know, board clears in pre-release, pretty good. But we're not here to review pre-release. We're here to review standard play from a more competitive standpoint and a little bit of a casual standpoint. Dylan, I'm going to toss this one to you first.
So let's look at the skeleton of this card and tell you why it's already good off the cuff. It's a category 6 card, and they don't print bad ones of those anymore, really. It's a samurai, so it gets searched by like 7 different cards with also job named samurai or title named samurai. And 3 CP 7K is already pretty good. I mean, that's standard right on. He's not looking like he's getting shrunk for his abilities. So if we're looking at the base idea, sure, if you want to be a samurai player with that skeleton, that's great. But everything's in the meat and potatoes of crystals, and anything that can get
and I think if you're going samurai, you're probably using the other cyan.
Yes.
Right? And that's a better payoff than this one.
Exactly. This is a crystal card at the end of the day, though. And this one gives you 5 when you pay. Now, listen, you're paying for those crystals. But we have had so many cards that have these 4 crystal, 3 crystal costs of doing something ridiculous. And this one drops 5. So on that alone, I think that on one turn, it having a good ability to use it, and it's this all-encompassing kind of card. I love cards that are just like this. So I would say this is probably a good 4 out of 5 for me. I think what puts it just under is the idea that it's crystals, and crystals are never the perfect cards, no matter what we've done with them so far.
Yeah, so fire, in my opinion, really hasn't had like that crystal payload, right? Like in Lightning, you're doing things like taking mini payloads with Lady Lilith. Just trying to get yourself to 1, get yourself to 2, break something, and maybe copy it with Go-Go if you're in an Ice Lightning to really maximize the payoff. In water, there's a bunch of crystal payloads and things you can do with them. But fire, to me, has always been kind of everything's like, oh, cool, I can spend a crystal to ping, or I can spend a crystal to increase damage by a little bit. Like these little, definitely fire-esque abilities. I'm not going to argue that, but it never really a benefit to running crystals. Now, here's the concern that I have. If you're in a fire deck and you're purposely building for crystals, or you've wanted to build a Fire X or Mono Fire crystal deck, I think this is a fantastic card. But if you look at all the things you want to put them in, Samurai, for me, no, you're going to run the other Cyan. I don't even think it's even a question in that particular scenario. And then you look at Cat 3 and you say, or Cat 6, and you say, well, hey, his name's Cyan, and I really don't care about other card named Cyans in the Cat 6 deck, so this isn't a which Setzer do I run, which Terra do I run, which Lock do I run situation. But to make those decks crystal generation enough where you don't have to pay 5, I think you start destroying how effective the deck actually is right now. So I think if you're going to consider it for that deck, you also have to be willing to say, am I set to pay 8? Because in most scenarios, in the deck you really want to put it in, you're going to be paying 8. Maybe you toss in a few crystal backups and manage in some matches to get 1 or 2. But I feel like you better be willing to pay 8 for the board clear. And I don't know if Cat 6 is willing to do it because they really don't care about your board. And hell, the demon is pretty effective at doing its thing in that deck. I like the card. It was a monster in pre-release. I think we will see it. I don't think it's going to be in the Cat 6 deck an awful lot. I think it's going to be used in other ways, which is totally fine. I still think the demon's probably a better card to do what this does, or similar effect in the Cat 6 deck. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Travis?
Mr. Cyan. He does have 3 relevant abilities
on
the crystals,
he
but
it
really is the board wipe. That's what you're going for. If you have more crystals when you bring him in, I like every crystal more you have, the more I like him, because paying 8 is a lot. And Matt just said something in the chat too that I was going to touch on, is that this isn't 8 in the sense of I'm going to pitch 4 from my hand and there's 8. I have to pay 3 first, and then I have to pay another 5. So you do need to kind of like tap backups and such for that, which can be a hair awkward. But I've seen people play him when they already had 3 crystals. They play him, they only need to spend 2, and that feels so much better.
Oh, that feels great.
So much better. I fully agree. I don't think he goes in 6. I don't think he goes in Samurai. And I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I just think fire, you and I kind of touched on this when we talked about the elements. It just, fire is just so limited in what it does right now. I just don't know like what kind of deck he's going to go in. But I do really like him, and in testing, he's very good. And the more crystals he has, the more I give him a thumbs up. So if you've already got 5 crystals, I'll give him a 5 out of 5. For every crystal less, take off half a point.
Well, and then the other thing to consider, though, is particularly like I was looking at running him in Fire Ice. right?
Yeah.
Not a specifically Cat 6 deck, but obviously a few Cat 6 cards for some synergies and searches and stuff like that. But the Cat 6 deck, as we've been seeing it in the most recent competitive season, not in a build like that. I've been seeing him in more of a Fire Ice, and somebody said it in chat, with a Dissidia Final Fantasy payoffs in it. And yeah, I mean, him and Go-Go, that seems pretty dope, right?
Yeah.
A 1 crystal 3K ping becomes a 1 crystal 6K ping. With just 2 forwards, because these are 3 action abilities. So I think there's some fun to be had, but I think it's just a slightly above average fun. I'm not convinced we're going to see him like in a super competitive environment, although by the time there is a super competitive environment, of course, Beyond Destiny won't be the most recent set. So it's unfortunate. Can we talk about that for a second? Travis, what'd you give this, by the way? 3 out of 5?
Well, if you have 5 crystals already, he's a 5 out of 5. For every crystal he doesn't have, take off half a point.
Take off half a point.
Probably
fair.
2.5 out of 5 on that.
Probably fair.
Yeah.
What did you guys feel about the set as a whole? I don't know about you, but as the spoilers kept coming, I was like, this set's got a lot of good in it. Like, this set has a lot of good in it, but I don't feel like it's got a big new or a big, like, I don't think it gives birth to an archetype. Maybe you argue Dissidia Final Fantasy because we really haven't had too much love in that category, and the anniversary sets that are behind me and stuff have given us some good cards in there too. And everything just seemed to accidentally be Dissidia in some of these cards. But you got a couple of cadets, right? You got a couple of WAF things. You got a couple of 6 things. You got you got these little micro packages that just kind of seem to, hey, you know what? Remember playing WAF? Let's make it a little stronger and see if you want to mess with it again. You remember messing around with cadets and wishing it would work? Well, no, we're not gonna give you the backup you want yet, but we're gonna give you some other things, and maybe you mess around with that. I feel like the set was one of those, let's go in and fill in a bunch of little gaps with a bridge set, since it's not going to be the set that leads into the competitive season anyway. Am I off base, or did you guys kind of feel the same? What?
No,
Who do you want to start? Go ahead, Joel.
I'll say right now that I feel as though that, not including the legends of the set, that the rest of the set felt like when you open a potato chip bag and it's like halfway air, and then you see chips at the bottom. I'm assuming that's what next set actually is supposed to look like, because the filler cards on this one, like what you were talking about, the WAF cards didn't feel like I'm not re-innovated. Like, I'm not going to go back and totally rebuild WAF from scratch. These cards aren't doing enough to like drag it up. Cadets, shut up. Like,
I had to bring cadets in. Come on.
No. Like, if you're a cadet player, listen, you know what you're signing up for with this card game. Go quit hurting yourself. Yeah, so all the other stuff that I brought in, and the Dissidia stuff looked at least kind of interesting. But overall, no, I felt really underwhelmed by the set. I remember thinking as I was looking at it collectively that normally I'm kind of like, all right, let's try to buy like some boxes. Let's buy like a complete like foil play set. This one, I was like, I'm not going to buy the foil play set.
Really?
Whatever ones I end up with, it'll be okay. But
really, wow.
I felt very wet blanket on this one. I'm actually kind of sad that this is going to be our world's meta. That's my hottest take on this.
Yeah, but I think that was kind of the point, right? Like, it just felt to me like they didn't want to really just crack the world's meta wide open like they did going into the last Crystal Cup of the year, right? Where it was just going to be the last Crystal Cup was just or Materia Cup, sorry, was just like the Wild West, right? The set had just become legal. Godspeed, good luck, everybody. Like, and that's why we ended up with like what, 75 people there, and 15 of them were Cat 6 decks. Yeah. It was just like,
hey, that was me. I was one of those 15.
Let's take a Cat 6 deck and see how we do. It seems to be the most solid, consistent thing right now, while everybody else messes around with things. I'm much higher on this set than you. Not that the set blows me away. I'm not going to say that. It doesn't. There's a couple legends that I can't wait to mess with. Mm-hmm. But as a whole, I found this set like intriguing in, hey, there's these 2 or 3 cards that, man, I'd really like to mess with that in this deck. And there's these 2 or 3 cards that I really like to mess with in this deck. Yeah, nothing blew my mind, but I did see things and I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to mess with that in deck A, deck B, deck C. So maybe I'm just, copium or a little hopium maybe even. Wow. But I think there's some stuff in there that you could definitely have some fun with. Travis, Dylan and I are clearly opposite ends of the spectrum here. So where do you fall on this?
I'm pretty underwhelmed by it as well. There's just a lot of chaff. So there's always a bunch of cards that are effectively blank just because their text is so bad. But then there's legitimately cards that are blank as well, like the Onion Knight, like the Monk, like the Rain, like the Desh, like the.
But we never expect them all to be home run cards.
No,
there's always going to be chaff.
Like the Onion Knight in particular, I find very insulting. Like why are you printing a card with no text?
Because he's a 3-drop 9.
But nobody's
going to
above
play curve. Why not?
And that right there, they are not in touch with what competitive standard is, because no one just plays bodies. Otherwise,
he's special fodder. That's why he's special fodder.
I mean, maybe, but if that card shows up at Worlds, I'm gonna have to buy a hat and eat it, because there's just so many uninspiring.
Oh my God! Somebody chuck one in your deck, please. Just chuck one.
No. That doesn't count. It has to make an impact. Not, well, I had it in my deck.
That one has to play on the board and swing for a point of damage.
Exactly,
that's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. So yeah, I also find it kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, I even thought, like, looking at the set, you could tell that Hobby Japan, at least in some regards, was thinking about certain things. Now, they may not have executed the way I would like or other players would like on certain things, but we're seeing a little more X-Burst hate. Is it good X-Burst hate? Not really. In the grand scheme of things, no. I wouldn't say it's fantastic X-Burst hate, but it does show that, hey, they're thinking about this.
Yeah.
And they're willing to do it.
They're very tepid, though. You can tell they're very scared to commit to something. Same with, we'll get in one of the Earth Legends and how kind of overcosted he is. And the Cadets, and maybe this is sour grapes for me because I've always really liked the Cadets package. You have printed the Riku. You have printed the Headmaster Sid. Like, we know you can make a card that color fixes them. Why are you still not doing that? They just
hate it.
They do.
They're not going to come out and say it. Here, I'm going to say it for you. I'm not a Square Enix employee, but you can quote me. My uncle is one, I'm sure. And I've got an uncle at Square Enix, and he says they freaking hate the cadet players, bro. They're like, Type O didn't make us enough money in the real world. We're not giving it good cards. Next question.
And it still gets that, as I think Steve D called it, that picnic tablecloth background.
Yeah.
All of them get that. Let us know how you feel about the set. Clearly, maybe it's hopium, but I kind of like some things. Next up on the Legends front, though, we've got Mr. Shadow, 7-drop 9K. All right, okay. Warp 3 for a single fire. Okay. I mean, Warp 3's a long time, but 1 is certainly better than 7, so let's see how it pans out. At the end of each of your turns, if 1 or more warp counters are placed on Shadow, remove 1 warp counter from Shadow for each Cat 6 forward you control. This effect will trigger only if Shadow is removed from the game. So now you kind of go, oh, okay, well, Warp 3 maybe ain't such a long time. When Shadow enters the field, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. All right, so we can already see how that effect is going to be abused in a poo-poo style, right? Oh, you can't discard if you don't have anything. Let me just draw 2. But reading the rest of the text, Travis, I don't know. What do you think?
So I specifically tested this card today before I came
the
on
artwork
here
is
because I wanted to talk about it. So I have now a lot of experience with this card because I wanted to run it. When he works, it actually feels pretty good. In particular, the idea, obviously, you pay 1 to warp him. You've got 3 other 6 forwards on the board. He immediately comes in. You've played pretty aggressively, so your hand is either empty or you've got 1 left. He draws you 2, lock is on the field, he also triggers. And what's really nice about all that is because it occurs in the end phase, it avoids any interaction. Baby. My opponent literally had an Ishtola on the board, and he was like, can I use this? I was like, nope, not allowed to respond. So That
You
felt
were like,
good.
in Magic the Gathering, you can.
Right, yeah, right. Incidentally, Interceptor has a field effect that gives a card named Shadow haste and 1,000 power, and that was relevant in one game where I needed one more forward, and he was it. And so I just played my hand out. He was my fourth forward, swung with the lock for the 4-party trigger, broke the board, won the game. That all felt good. However, the one downside is the name Shadow. It's not that the backup is actually good, but there are so few 6 backups that have different names. When I took him out originally, I had to jam in the backup Terra, even though I wanted to test a new one, because there's just not enough. Like, I couldn't even get to 5 unique backups. So I like him, but legit, he competes with his own bad backup just because 6 needs, it's just so short on viable backup names. So I think if you're willing to bite that bullet and go around it, he surpassed my expectations in testing. So take that as you will.
So I'm kind of on the same lines with you here, mainly because, okay, I like the warp and what it's doing, and when you first see warp 3, you're like, ugh, nope, too slow. Then you read the text and you're like, well, okay, I mean, I'm probably going to have 2 out by the time I play this. I'm going to try to have a 3rd. Yeah, that seems reasonable, particularly in like a dedicated Cat 6 build, right? Which, that's all this fits in.
Yeah.
Right? With that requirement, I mean, unless you really feel like waiting 3 turns to draw 2 cards. But I believe we had a water warp card last set that nobody runs because they didn't want to wait 3 turns to draw 2 cards. So here's my thing. I don't actually like his effect. One, I feel like you have to have at least 3 to really just get the payoff immediately, like you were talking about. Or you are at least waiting 1 turn, up to 3 turns. To do what? Get a 9K forward, discard your hand, and draw 2. Yeah, we all know how you can play around that, but that means for this to be effective, I always have to be playing around it to get the best benefit. I think in the decks that you would run this for, right, a Cat 6 deck, you're already drawing cards at a well above average clip in most builds that you're not trying to jam extra card draw in. I'm kind of low on this one. I do love the art. Flynn in chat liking the art too. I do like it as well. I think I have to give this one a 1 out of 5. I think the only deck it goes in any meaningful way competitively, you don't want it to go in there. Which, okay, then what good is the card at that point? Dylan?
You guys are being way too nice about this card. This card sucks.
I just gave it a 1.
Bro.
And said the only deck that it goes in, nobody's going to want to put it in there. How was I being kind?
Listen, that's what I'm saying. 1 is too much. This doesn't deserve to be a legend card. This card, even as a common or a rare, is not doing enough favors for it, right? Like, I think we sit here and we talk about this, and it's this idea that it's like, all right, let's start here. Objectively, the best strength of this card is a 1 CP 9K. And as we just established with Onion Knight, 3 CP 9K do nothing is bad. Now, what if that you took off 2 CP, but in exchange, half the time, it makes you discard your hand and draw 2 cards? And that's like a setback instead of a pro. Yeah. No, this card is... I don't know why the card has the text. Everything between Warp 3 and 9,000 power, I don't understand what was going on in their decision-making to say, yeah, this seems good. Print it out. Legend? Sure. I don't. Travis actually makes a lovely point that I will circle back to. A bad Shadow backup is objectively better than this Legend. Bro, I don't know. I can't word it better than that. Like, to be honest, this one sucks. I don't even give it the 1. This is a straight... This is maybe the worst Legend I've seen in a long time. 0 out of 10. But bad. Just bad.
Okay, wait. We're changing the rating scales. I started doing on a 5 scale because that's the way you started with the first card. Now you're going to 10s. We did 10s last episode.
Sorry, 0 out of 5. 0 out of 5.
Are we on 5s or 10s? Because Dylan, I'm taking your lead on it since you went first and I didn't want to point it out. But now I have to point it out.
That was you know what? I wanted to show how much more room it had to be bad. On a 10 scale, you double the room. Score, and it still hits 0.
This has double the room to be bad.
Yes.
Not a fan. Let's slide over and start with some ice then. Ultimecia, 5-drop, 9k forward. When Ultimecia cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons. Abilities are fair game. When Ultimecia enters the field, remove up to 5 characters of cost 5 or more in your break zone from the game. When you removed 1 or more cards, choose the same number of characters as the cards you removed this way, dull and freeze them. Your opponent discards 1 card. Not the best translation wording for the effect, I don't think. I feel like this could have been explained a little bit better in a fewer words, but I think we all get the point. Obviously, there's going to be some synergies we're going to talk about when we get to the next card, because Ultimecia does happen to be Job Witch, which will be a little relevant in just a few seconds. Whose turn is it first? Oh, I think it's my turn.
Dylan, or you, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's my turn.
Go ahead.
I was really excited when I first saw this card. I do like Cat 8 styles sometimes, some of the smaller packages that Cat 8 can do. They've never really gelled into a really competitive Cat 8 deck, but they are fun to play on the side. I like Ultimecia, and I'm a lightning baby through and through, right? Mono lightning for the win. That's my MO. So yes, back in the day, 6-drop Adia, Job Witch shenanigans. Yes, all about it. Then I'm also a Verstale baby. Damn it, this loves a Verstale deck. This loves a Verstale deck. And it's probably one of the few competitive decks that you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of Ultimecia, because it can bear the brunt of having that many 5 cost or mores in your break zone. A lot of other decks are going to have a hard time making a meaningful up to 5 count. That said, I love the art. I love the card. I love the effect. Kinda. Kinda. In my brain, and if I'm wrong, you guys can steer me right. In my brain, this is the knockout punch, right? This is, because you're only going to get it once unless you Renoa it and flicker it. Yes, there's all kinds of shenanigans you could do, but you still have to have those cost 5 or mores in your break zone for the flicker if you're going to do it. So this reads as very similar to Bahamut Zero to me, right? You're either casting Bahamut Zero so that you don't die that turn, or you're casting Bahamut Zero because you're going to win if you cast it. Well, Ultimecia can't be cast to save your life on that turn, but if you know you're going to be dead 2 turns from now, yeah, maybe you could play it on your turn to escape and get 1 more turn, or you're playing it to put things down so that you can swing for the win. And I just feel like at the end of the day, there's probably better spends to do that effect without having to give up large portions of your break zone. Now, is she badass in a Verstale deck? You fucking bet she is. And yes, I'm going to put her in there. But I got to look at this holistically like I did with Shadow. You know, I'm going to give her a 2.5. That extra half, maybe 3/4 of the score is the art. So if I take away the art, that's like a 1.5-ish card. But yeah, I'm going to put her right in the middle at 2.5. I think she's going to be fun in a Verstale deck. I just think if you're looking for a knockout punch in other decks, there's more cost-efficient ways to do it without sacrificing so much. Maybe if she said discard 2 cards, I'd be a little more interested in trying her in other places. Travis, go to you next.
Every Ice Legend has been and will be a disappointment to me until they release the Ice Legend that says dull and freeze all the forwards your opponent controls. Preferably characters, but monsters and forwards at minimum. And I keep waiting for it, and ever since the Primal Shiva in Opus 14, I'm waiting for it and I'm waiting for it. And every time I don't see it, I just die a little further inside. So all that said, I'll try not to put those sins on Ultimecia here. You're right. It's a no-brainer in Verstale. It's very good there. I've already seen it succeed. When you can play it for free off of Griever, I also don't mind.
I was going to say something to that, though, because I knew you were going to say that. I don't think she feels great to play for free, even. And that's what really bumps it. Because you still have to remove a meaningful number of cards from your break zone, even if you played her for free off the back of, playing a witch from your break zone or the next Ice Legend we're going to talk about or any of the free methods of play. I don't even think she feels that great in a Verstale deck. Yes. In everything else, no. Like, even playing her for free doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I actually fully agree, which is why I said she doesn't feel good. I said I don't mind her playing for free.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But so that right there shows you the issue. I've never wanted to pay for her once. Every time I would have to hard cast her, I just pitch her
I'll
for
pay if
better.
she'll come over and hang out for a little.
Right, yeah, exactly. So she's just, again, she's basically just made for Verstale, because beyond that, she's just not very interesting.
She's going to be so much fun in Verstale, though. Go ahead, Dylan.
That art to me just says, Mike, you better chill. She's literally holding up their hand and saying, brother, I see you.
No, she's saying, let me just grab that.
Yeah, and I'm spoken for.
That's what she said. She's, let me just grab that.
Um,
You can let a man dream, Dylan, damn it.
You know what? Here's what I'll say about this card. I think she's not as busty as she should be. If I'm going to critique anything, it's the art right now.
Facts.
I'm going to be the one to say it. Based on in-game models, I'm just saying. But more importantly than that, how is this card actually read and play? I will say this card is pretty okay. This card was built. The funny thing is, we're talking about Ice Legends again, and Travis isn't wrong. Ice Legends notoriously are the disappointing bunch. They were just like, let's print a 5 CP 9K body with like probably some pretty woman art and put any amount of things that say Dole Freeze or discard onto it, and it'll all just kind of work out. And I feel like they did that in Opus 14 of Shiva, and now we've got this with Ultimecia. And I couldn't tell you if Ultimecia is even better or worse. I mean, if we had a Griever that brought back a Shiva, then like maybe we're cooking. But Griever brings back this card, and this card is really specific about when it wants to hit the board. If she comes in on your turn or on your opponent's turn because they killed Griever and it brings it in, all right. But what if you're not hooked up on the break zone and then it does like almost nothing? I think it's just a little too situational. Something about Ice, they just ever since they ran wild at the beginning of this game's life, they just said kill it, break its legs, and it keeps crawling. It's crawling to okayness. It gets some great art, but it gets some cards that are just banking too much on other cards. And I just want one card to be uniformly good across the board. And I guess his name was Rufus last set, but
yeah, I mean I don't even care about Reno and Rude being in the damn deck.
Yeah.
Like I'm like Rufus you're just
out.
Good.
He came in here. You know what? Make this card. I don't even know how you change it to make it better. No, this card's just fine. Give me the full art though. I'm gonna pay too much money for the full art set regardless though.
So we're all kind of around the same then, like a 2.5 ish.
Yeah. I'd give it a 2.5 for the art as well.
I'll give it a 2.
I think she'll be higher than a 2 in a Verstale deck. I think she's a 2 everywhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, then Dylan, you get to go first on our next Ice Legend. Now, you've already kind of mentioned the dude once, the Griever here. We've got a 6-drop 9K forward. Mobius. Could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Mobius as a subcategory there. When Griever is put from the field into the break zone, you may search for one Job Witch. Not from your hand. You may search for one and play it onto the field. And then Doll to select one of 2 of the following actions. Just break Doll forwards your opponent controls with no requirement other than they be Doll. Or have your opponent discard a card. So recurring breaking of Dolls or recurring discard. Alas, it does have the Doll symbol, so maybe that's going to factor into some opinions here. Mm-hmm. Dylan, I'll give you the floor. It's all yours on Monsieur Griever. This
card has been the closest I've come to really wanting to play Ice Water and thinking that there's something there for a second. We've got at least a couple cards in Water that are just like activate the card for nothing,
Yeah.
And obviously any basic line brewer looks at that and says, how do I do that more than once to get value out of them?
Yeah.
6 CP is a lot. 6 CP is a lot for a card that has to survive for a whole turn. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's improbable. I'm just saying that it does make it not as smooth and buttery and all the situations you want to see if you run 3 of this card. This feels already like I'd run 2, and I hope that it pops up whenever my opponent's hand is empty and they can't just do anything about it. Like this looks like and reads as a great finisher, but in 2/3 of the game, it kind of looks like it struggles. So objectively, it's just Ultimecia again, right? Like we just want a card that drops at the end of the game when, frankly, you're hopefully already winning, and then it just kind of clinches it. Which I'm not saying is a bad card, but I think it has all the same issues that Ultimecia does, except that it's. I don't know. Is this even worse thinking about it? Do we have to waiting a whole turn is a big deal? Is this just actually worse? And they just happen to peanut butter jelly themselves. I'm talking myself down.
I don't know, though, because I actually think this is really, really intelligent design that we don't see a lot. That doesn't mean it's going to be good competitively, but intelligent design that we don't really see a lot of from Hobby Japan. And that's not to say that it's unintelligent design, but I think this one's really well thought out. Obviously, when you slap this on the board, it's got that dull symbol, so you either A, want to give it haste, or B, hope it lives a turn.
Yeah.
Well, it's in ice, so you can maybe get it cute with some fire and things like that. But, okay, let's look at it in the context of just this card. When I play this, Travis, you as my opponent now have to make a decision. It's not just as simple as, I want to kill that before it becomes Mike's turn again. Because of its other effect, you're now put in a position where you have to think about, do I want to kill this and run whatever risk of whatever witch is about to hit the field, and I'm going to have to spend removal just for Mike to get a witch on the field? Or do I want to let this thing live and next turn have to deal with that action ability? There is a little crossroads there. It's not designed like other cards that have great dull payoffs that get no help any other way, and so they just become, I played this, oh, well, yeah, I'm not going to let you get those effects, kill on sight. This, to me, does require your opponent to, at least for a moment, think, do I want to deal with those action abilities next turn, or would I rather deal with a witch hitting the board of some type right now, whether that's Ultimecia, whether that's Maya, whether it's, somebody's running a Diaz, whatever. I do think it requires a little bit of thought, and I like that design. Whether or not it's a good card, I like the design.
So this is one I've tested with a lot. I have a lot of testing with this card. And to answer your question, yes, you want to kill the Griever. No matter what witch they bring out, it is...
I know. I'm just trying to give it credit for design,
no,
man. Come on. I'm going to kill the fucking thing on sight.
I'm just giving my opinion on it. So this card reminds me the most of Neo X-Death, actually, in that it's a 6 cost. And it's at its most powerful the earlier you play it. If you jam this out turn 1 and you can follow it up with a Rugged to immediately give it haste, or a Rosa or a Sage to activate it, it will win the game for you, just like Neo X-Death. Like, it is so backbreaking, the amount of discards that will suddenly come out of nowhere.
Yeah. When this was spoiled, Gogo's eyebrows went way up.
Exactly. It's insane. However, if you play it later in the game, you're paying 6 for a card they can just ignore, bounce it, Dulla freeze it, whatever. So in testing, it really reminds me of Neo X-Death, that the earlier you get it out, the much higher chance you are to take over the game with it. And I have seen it solo games, but the longer and longer you wait, just like Neo X-Death, okay, well, they've got 10 characters now they'll sacrifice, or they'll happily choose it to get rid of it. So play it early, play it aggressive, give something to abuse it, and it will take you to the promised land. But again, if you see it later, it's going to fall off more and more.
Just a note for you, it's not limited to forwards. So as long as, we got formerly in chat already talking about Matoya, the backup, of course. You can get some goofy stuff going with it. What's everybody going to give it, though?
I'm gonna give it a 3, just because I think that it has more staying power than Ultimecia, and it is objectively the better. It is the better of the 2 cards because it brings her back, and it doesn't even have to be Ultimecia. It could be, as we've mentioned, Matoya, or let's be honest, those are the only 2 actual witches in this game. All the rest are either just bad Ultimecias. But for the reason that this card is the engine, I'm gonna give this one a 3. Out of 5.
I think that's fair. I'd probably knock it down to a 2.5. Because it does have the inherent slow play. If you're not going to put it in a deck that you could just naturally give it haste, and I don't like the idea of forcing haste into a deck that doesn't necessarily want those types of cards that come with haste in it. So I'm going to knock it down to a 2.5. I think it has its uses. I think we're definitely going to see this in a few decks at Worlds, I think, poking around here and there, but it's not going to be like an archetype that's, built around, even in a Verstale type thing. It's not going to be, the linchpin that wins it.
On a scale of 20, because I know we're doing different scales tonight.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Overall, I'll give it a 3. Again, if you can play it in the first couple turns, it's easily a 5 or a 6. If the later you play it, it just goes all the way down to a 1. So overall, it's a 3.
Next up, we hit Wind. Princess Sarah kicks us off. A legend backup. Always nice to see those. We don't get them all that often. A 2-drop legend backup. Oh, hell. Okay. All right. Let's see what this card says. Sopfo category. Princess job. Ooh, okay. All right. You're searchable a number of ways. 0 cost action ability. Choose a forward until the end of the turn. It gains this forward cannot be chosen by X bursts. You can only use this ability during your main phase and only once per turn. Dull and discard any job princess. Choose a forward during this turn. The next damage dealt to it becomes 0 instead. Okay. I mean, I was really excited at Wind, 2-drop, Legend, Princess Sarah. And then I read the text and I don't know. I don't think I'm so sure anymore. What do you think, Travis?
Oh, to me, an EX burst card.
You get to go first. An X burst card.
Let's hit it. So
I know you love the mechanic. So
I do.
Here's a
I
mechanic
adore
that
it.
hates your mechanic.
I know. I was so heartbroken when I saw this. Again, it kind of goes with the Ice Legend thing. Just be bold. Give us the Ice Legend that freezes the board. Ice is dying for a board-wide effect. Print a card that just turns off bursts. This is so tepid with that. Yes, it's nice you can protect a forward, but it doesn't stop bursts that draw. It doesn't stop bursts that search. It doesn't stop bursts that recur from your deck.
Yeah, it suffers from the old 4-drop Earth Wool issue.
Right? And it's
Which,
nice
by the way,
that
protected all of your forwards,
Exactly.
not just one.
And it's nice that the action ability is free because it should be. Because, okay, I could still attack 3 times, and I don't even know if I'll hit a burst. So thank goodness you don't have to pay for that. I do like the second action ability, and I particularly like it's not a special that any of those princesses. So if you run a Sarah to search her out, now those extra copies do give you something. It's one of those weird cards where there's nothing wrong with it because it's just a 2-cost backup that can be searched with potentially relevant effects, but it's also not so overwhelmingly like, wow, I have to jam this in everything that, especially in a game where slots are really tight, I can see people skipping it. So again, nothing wrong with it, but it's also not exciting.
Yeah, I like the card, but it's not my favorite princess in this set. So, I mean, I can't even give it those marks, right? Princess Goblin, much more interesting to me as far as what that can enable, some stuff that I'm messing around with. I'm kind of with you. The only bad thing about this card, to me, is that it's taking a legend slot.
Yeah.
Like, this feels like a really good hero or an exceptional rare. I don't like that. I always like seeing legend backups, but this is kind of one of the least whelming for me.
Yeah.
the least overwhelming for me. I'm going to give it like a 1.5, like maybe a 2, because I do like your effects. There's nothing on this card that I hate. I love your being cost 2. I love you being searchable, but you're in an element where searching backups isn't really a problem anyway.
Yeah.
And even getting out cheap backups these days isn't a problem in Wind and Wind X. I'm going to give it like a 1.5, 2. Go ahead, Dylan.
This card brings nothing to Wind that it needed. It is a legend and a backup, and for whatever reason, legend backups are just pretty not great in this game. What was the last one before then? Remind me. It's the 3CP one. Oh God, of course I forget whenever I think about it. That one was bad too. It had the S ability with all that other stuff.
Talk about Ovelia.
Ovelia, thank you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ovelia. I was like, this looks cool. Bad. This one, it's like, this isn't a bad card. Let me start by saying that.
No, not at all.
These effects are neat and good, and I think that the action ability is actually kind of getting slept on, if anything. That randomly pulling 0 damage on stuff is like pretty strong. But overall, we got so many spots that we're already filling up in Wind, and do we really want to be shoving a Sopfo card that just happens to be a princess card in there? I don't know. You know, then you're thinking, all right, well, if it's not Mono Wind, maybe Ice Wind. Okay, I don't think it's Ice Wind because there are better cards than what this one's doing. And then it's like, okay, well, if it's not that, then maybe Wind Water. And I could see an argument for maybe Wind Water if you go with like this Princess backup package. Maybe if you play 10 or something. I don't know, but it's not that the card. I won't say that the card's bad. It's just it's nothing. It just doesn't do much. It doesn't really give anything into an element that didn't need it. For Legend, I want zest. I want something that's bringing in or changing in stuff or really
He
amping
said
something.
I want zest.
Yeah, I want something. Give me a punch of lime in my face, man. This is just kind of like, all right, cool. Went and got another card. If you told me this was a rare, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
The other Wind Legends, 4-drop 8K Balthier, the old Sky Pirate himself. You know he was the main character, I hear.
And the leading man.
And the leading man. When Balthier or a wind character enters your field, choose one forward opponent controls, deal it 3k damage, and you can ditch Sky Pirates, one-job Sky Pirate, for an action ability to activate all the characters you control. You can only use this ability once per turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means 5. Travis, your turn.
So I don't really like this card very much. I would highly recommend you check out my wind review because Jared, my partner who does these with me, makes a really good case for it, but I still just don't feel it myself. I really actually liked what Dylan said in that last one, which is part of the reason I'm so burned on a lot of this set. So much of this, it's just more of the same. It doesn't change, and it's not like, oh wow, a new thing wind could never do before. Oh wow, a new thing ice could never do before. And Balthier to me just reads like a weird like mix of Bismarck and Luso, but not nearly as good as all of those. He doesn't really fit with the old Sky Pirates either. Like none of the new ones do.
No, there's better Balthiers for that deck.
Yeah. So check out what Jared says about him because he does make a good case for him as like a mid-range stopgap for aggro. But I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like it. It's like the fact that I can Amaterasu it and I need to play 3 characters to kill anything above 6k. I don't know. That just seems kind of to me.
I don't think he goes in the Sky Pirate deck. Like, I think there's better Balthiers for that. I don't think activation is a real problem for Wind if you've been playing this game for a while. And ditching 2 CP from your hand to potentially activate all the characters you control. Okay, I mean, there could be big payoffs where in a pinch, that's really, really good. But if you're playing that type of deck, you've probably already got your different cycles of what you're going to activate when, and you're going to get this off of Tomos, and this off of Evray, and then this off of, casting Asura, and looping that with Lulu, and all kinds of stupid shit. I actually think it's kind of neat to conceptualize him in maybe like a Retainers deck. Right? Where there is that damage going across your board with Regis out every time you play a forward, and now here's that little cap-off damage, and things can start trading in weird and interesting ways. So I do think there's a little bit to mess with here. That doesn't mean that I like the card, though. To me, this kind of falls into that one category. There's better Wind cards. There's better Wind Sky Pirates. There's better Wind Balthiers. I think somebody's going to find a neat thing or two here and there to do with him. But for me, he's rather underwhelming.
Yeah, this is another 2. Here's like this in the Fran deck, in the Fran 12 deck is like maybe this is objectively a better Balthier for that deck.
Yes, I would agree. Where you're not so concerned about Sky Pirate counts, you just really want Fran.
Yeah, and Fran's playing this card. If you said you get to play these cards for free and they're just dropping and doing stuff, that's like pretty good. And this one, if you said now you're playing a card for free and it also deals 3k on the board and you can activate all the characters as you need to, that's like not bad. Every other deck where all that extra, that Sky Pirate, that Balthier, that Wind stuff should matter. It doesn't, though.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So it's pretty hard to rate this card highly. More than that, I'd almost even say, do I want to even give it a 0.5 for the art? And it's just kind of like Starry Night with Balthier giving you the eyes. It said, hey, I see it's 10 o'clock. What are you doing later? You want to come over? No, it's a 2. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's fine.
Hitting Earth, we hit 6-drop Ingus. Cost required to cast him gets reduced by 1 for each Earth backup you control. So Earth mono decks already licking their chops. And he X-bursts. When he enters the field, you may search for 1 Earth forward other than card name Ingus and add it to your hand. Notice that there was no stipulation of any type that I put on that except that he can't have the name Ingus. That's it. That's it. Any other forward. I'll go first. I'm going to keep this real short. Balls deep. Love this card. Love this card. I'm going to give it the cost, but I'm only going to give it a 5 because I control 1 Earth backup. 5 out of 5. This is such just like an easy 1 or 2 of in most Earth heavy decks that are just going to toolbox the forward you need at the time, get you a free forward you need at a time during an X-burst, and sits on a 9K body that gets reduced by the Earth backups you have. That's just nutty. It's just nutty. It doesn't do anything like crazy, right? There's nothing on here that you're like, whoa, what is this card doing? But you're like, yeah, that seems solid. I like going to get the forward I need, period. And I also have the option of getting a discount for this if I'm running a couple extra Earth backups. That's just good. It's just good. It's going to see play in a competitive environment. Absolutely. And so for that, you don't blow me away, but you're nutty enough for me to give you a 5 out of 5. It's going to see play, and it's solid at what it does, and it never doesn't not do that, right? Even if you took it as damage, it still gets to do it. Like, it still gets to do it.
Well, you can't talk about EX burst like they're a good thing here. We've got this isn't the right chat room for that, Mike.
Travis, on to you.
He's actually
it's a consistency piece. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He's the only legend with an EX burst. It's generically strong. It's generically good. It will go in a mono Earth deck. The one problem with the card is actually kind of what you talked about, where you said where you go get your Earth forward. All the Earth forwards suck, and I have a buddy who has been playing mono Earth this set, and we've really tried to refine it and test it.
You don't care. He gets your 4-cost 4-element Warrior of Light. You don't care.
But good luck playing that in mono Earth. But so that's the only real issue, is that we play him and he feels great to play. He's just Ash, 1 cost, 9K body, search out anything you want. All of that is great.
Grab you an Earth forward.
The problem is there's no silver bullet in the Earth deck that's like, oh, let me go get this because this helps me win. So
no, but think about it though. Like any deck, sorry, wrong frames there. Any deck that is heavier on Earth, even if not mono Earth, like Monks isn't super popular at the moment, but he's a Warrior of Light that gets jammed into a fucking Monks deck, right? Like you're just like, yeah, I'll go get Cyan or Ursula or Sophie or whichever one I'm missing at the moment. Like he adds value and consistency to any deck that has Earth forwards. Yeah. Like, he goes and gets me Durando. Hell yes!
I mean, you're welcome to show me the way, but again, the problem isn't Ingus. The problem is Mono Earth. So he's great, though. He's clearly very good, and nothing bad to say about him.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna just be a stickler. I'm gonna be so annoying. I'm so hard on this set right now. If it could search card name Ingus, I'd give it like a 4 out of 5. Just because. But just because he can't, it feels at this point, why even restrict it to that? Like, why not let him loop himself into a search? Sarah can do it. And I don't think it's so powerful that it's like, oh no, I'm searching for another card I paid 1 for. I guess you could chain like a bunch of 1 CP 9K bodies in your ideal situation, but I think you deserve that if you play 5 backups in Mono Earth. Otherwise, this card's pretty good. I'm still not playing it in Warriors of Light, but it goes in Mono Earth and it goes in decks that could randomly just want to hit a burst, and this is a good enough burst for it. So, this is no worse than like a 3, probably a 3.5.
It's a 5. I don't know what the hell you guys are.
I'll give it a 5.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I'll give it
Travis
a 3.5.
coming with
I'm such a stickler this set.
Well, there's a 5 in there somewhere, so I don't care. 8-drop Neo X-Death. This one's going to go to Dylan first, a 10K forward. He's also card name X-Death in all situations. So in your deck, in your hand, in your break zone, all that good stuff. Brave. And when he enters the field, you got to give up 2 of the backups you control and remove them from the game. But you also get to remove all the forwards and monsters that the opponent controls from the game. A one-sided board wipe that takes the monsters with them on a 10K Brave beat stick for a cost of 8. What do you got, Dylan?
So with Travis, he said that Cyan went down a point for every crystal you didn't have, or that you did have, right? Whichever way it was, the math on it. I'm this way with every extra copy of a card that you have in this deck. With just a 1 of, it's a 5 out of 5 card. Fight me. Listen, it costs a whole freaking lot. It's a dump truck. It does. Cost. It's 8 cost and backups. Yikes! I don't want to give it a 5 for that reason, but hear me out. It's just neat. It comes out, blows up your opponent's board left and right, including monsters, and we're overdue for monsters, but it felt like that they didn't do enough to like keep the cost reduction. It felt like they wanted to still be very chill about that. That being said, just as a 1 of, and it just, when it hits, and you have those one-sided board wipes, those are just always kind of good, man. You know, like the idea, it's just like, all right, screw you. I'm a 10K, huge body. And also, Fusuya Lightning Stock. That legend, bring that one back where it flips cards, deals damage based on the cost. Give me that card, and then we got this one, Earth Lightning, baby. We're playing old school stuff because it just looks fun. Starts at a 5, goes down for every other copy of this card you have in your deck. Don't play more than 1. Oh my god, just draw it at the right time, casuals.
Or play Ingus.
Exactly. Hey! Fine, 3.5. I hold to it. That's it. It's just a 3.5. That's it.
Yeah, this is another one of those cards like the X-Burst hate and stuff that seeing in the set that conceptually I like to see that Hobby Japan is at least thinking. Yeah, there does need to be some monster hate now in the game more than there's been previously. Monsters are getting very, very strong, or maybe not even very strong, just really easy to hide and swing for 6 all of a sudden because you just don't have adequate removal to keep them off the board. I like this conceptually. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it's a 1 of, unless you're going to get goofy and try and doing some weird X-Death stuff and Magic Pot stuff and things like that, since you can play with the card name. I think there's fun to be had there in like meme-type situations, seeing if you can get that one odd pop-off to actually work and things like that. I hate the cost. I hate the cost. I would actually be okay with the 8. I would actually probably be okay with a 9 if you didn't make me give up 2 backups to do it. Like, I'm already willing to pay 7 in most cases for a Shantoto to get rid of all the forwards. Make me pay 8 or 9 to get rid of the forwards and the monsters and establish a body. Okay, I'm kind of fine with it. I may not pay it all that often. He may be CP fodder in just about every game I have. But that one time I'm willing to pay 8 or 9, cool. I don't like the giving up of the 2 backups. I also don't like that it removes them from the game too, so you can't even get cute and do rampair things or other backups that get some type of benefit when they leave. You don't get that cute stuff either. It like totally shuts that off. I think they've overly restricted it. I'm with you on that, Dylan. I'm gonna give it a 3 or a 4-ish. I think it's gonna be fun to play with. There are going to be decks that it's totally worth Tekken 1 in here if you're at a competitive environment, just because you're weak against something like Mono Water or Gal decks, Gal Monster decks, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So tucking 1 in the deck is probably going to be a good idea here and there. I don't think he's going to set the world on fire, though.
This card is a perfect example of everything I don't like about their card design. It is what the game has been dying for 5, 6, 7 opuses, which is board-wide monster hate. But as usual, they were too scared of it, so they put so many restrictions on it as to make it worthless. It is way too expensive. 8 is already a terrible cost to be for any card, and to give up backups... I have seen this card played 5 times, and the person playing it has lost the game every time because you just cripple yourself. You destroy your own board. The game is begging for cheaper board wipes to keep up with the efficiency of the forwards. Someone played this against me, wiped out their hand, wiped out 2 of their backups, and I went, that's nice. Okay, Grahatia, Alice, Ishtola, it's dead. I'm going to keep doing my Scions thing, and I've won because you crippled yourself. The only redeeming factor of this card is that it hits monsters, and nothing else does that to this scale. So for that alone, like, it's worthy of a slot just because it's the only thing that does that. But it's just too expensive, And again, every time I've seen it played, that person has gone on to lose. So it's the right idea, but oh, why did they hamstring it so much? I give it a 1.
Ooh, damn.
Travis
Really
said
harsh about that price.
This card's bait. It's trying to trick you into thinking it's good.
Pretty much.
3-drop 7K Irvine in the lightning element. When he enters the field or attacks, choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's break zone, remove them from the game. If there are 2 characters that are removed from the game by this effect, until the end of the turn, Irvine gains 2K power, haste, and first strike. And he has a special for a self-titled discard and a single lightning. You get to choose a forward or monster of cost 5 or less. Break it. Notice that one does not have the doll icon. Travis, what do you think of our hat-wearing buddy here?
He's good. It's nice to see Irvine get a good card. He's kind of like a pumped-up Alba. Alba was always a little awkward because a lot of times they wouldn't dump a summon early, which is what she needed to get the haste. But Irvine just hits any characters, so it's... I've
well, he
never
hits
seen
anything.
Yeah.
It's just characters to get the haste.
Yeah, if you want the extra effect. He usually doesn't stay around long. Like, again, usually he's going to die the next turn when he's just a 7K, but he's very good for that come in, eat away at your break zone, hit a point of damage. Like, the only, I guess, downside is he kind of has this weird anti-synergy with cards like Emperor Gestalt that also want to, like, junk your break zone. But no, he's been really good in testing. He's solid. I've yet to see the special come up. That's pretty common for specials, though. So, yeah, he's just overall solid. I like him. I'll give him a 4.
I'm gonna join you on the 4, maybe in a 4.5, just because I'm a purple baby. So it's purple cards. So we'll give it half a point just for having the color purple on it, and we'll call it a 4.5 out of 5. I've been testing with this one a lot, obviously, with the lightning, fetish. I really, really like this card. He was crazy in pre-release, right? Yeah. Like he was. I pulled him on my 3rd pre-release, the last pre-release event we had. I pulled one, and he was just nutty. He was absolutely nutty. Anytime you get break zone hate in a pre-release, it's just nutty. And he absolutely was. He was absolutely crazy. The only thing I don't like about him, the only reason I'm not going to give a 5, is there aren't other copies of Irvine that I want to run in my deck to make the special just that much more relevant, right? Like the special is cheap. It's 3 CP to crack any forward or monster. We were just talking about monster hate of cost 5 or less. That's relatively cheap for unrestricted access to anything 5 or below. And Lightning has really been okay at taking monsters out that were 2 or below with the 3-drop Ramu for years and years and years. But above the cost of 2, it's really struggled, with the exception of like the odd Odin here and there that let us hit 3s occasionally. I just wish there was some other Irvine that made this, that I felt okay running one of, just so I had a 4 count.
Yeah.
So that I could make that special a little more relevant. That's the only reason I'm docking him half a point. I love this card. 4.5 out of 5.
I'm gonna have to be that guy again, huh? Tell you guys how wrong you guys are about a card.
Yeah, it's about Tifa, huh? How's that Tifa going?
Yeah, how's that Tifa working out for you?
It's killing it. It's gonna kill it at the team tournament. You're gonna see. See you there. Meanwhile, this card, you guys are underselling it. This card's fantastic. It's a 5. No questions asked. It's 3 CP, well curved. It doesn't have any restrictions on the type of characters that's new. It says characters at the end of the day. So if they play an exclusively heavy summon deck, then maybe you won't get the haste in the first strike. But there's a 9 out of 10 chance there's characters in there. And this doesn't say it needs to be lightning. It doesn't say anything needs to be dull. This card just says, cool, I see you, Break Zone. Eat a dick. I'm going to swing in. I'm going to hit something. I'll trade of something if it wants to, but it's doubtful unless it's that 10K Neo X death, which is why that's a 5.
I mean, like in almost every situation, you're immediately spending 3 to exile 8 CP from the break zone. Like in most scenarios, here's 3 CP. Let's get rid of 4 CP out of your break zone. Let's swing. Let's get rid of 4 more CP out of your break zone, even if you don't care about what the targets were. Oh, and by the way, let's deal a point of damage too.
On top of all of it, it's just a lightning card finally being treated well, right? I feel like lightning was also in that ice camp where it's like we're going to add extra conditions for seemingly no good reason. Has to be dull or has to be active, has to do this, has to do that, has to be only on leap years can you play this card's S ability, you know, like, and this card's just solid all the way through. You could slap it anywhere that plays lightning, and if they don't play lightning and it has a Tiro or Shantoto, I still kind of want to play 3 of these. The fact that lightning recurs as well naturally in its element means that you can run 3 of these, you don't feel bad, and there's a decent chance you have a way to get a card back to your hand with it to use the S ability. So yeah, this card's insane. 5 out of 5.
Yep. And I'm probably going to run one other Irvine, even though I don't want to.
Yeah, we're going to Physalis it. We're going to be gross Physalis players in Lightning. And it's cool.
There you go. You go. The other Lightning legend, Zonde.
This guy.
This guy. The old 5-coster. When he enters the field, you choose a forward opponent controls. If you control 4 or more Lightning characters, break it. All right. Unrestricted. Doesn't have to be active. Doesn't have to be dull. Doesn't have to be below a certain cost. You just have to have 4 or more Lightning characters. So that would include your monsters, too. When Zonde enters the field, choose 1 forward in your break zone. If you control 8 or more Lightning characters, play it onto the field. And again, no restrictions here. You want to do Chaos Arc shenanigans? Fine. You got 8 Lightning characters? Cool. Go ahead and play your Chaos. Like, you want to... I know immediately, Travis, what everybody was thinking was like, what is the biggest payload that I can make work with this? And to which, me, the Lightning baby, I was the voice of reason that was like, what deck have you played lately where you're getting 8 Lightning characters on board? Not to say that this set hasn't made mono more viable. It has, in a lot of good ways. So yes, you can play around with this, but just thinking in the past, stop thinking about big payload first and think about how you're going to get there. Then think about payload. Because I think for some people, this card might be a little bit of a trap.
Yeah, I adored this when I saw it on Card of the Week, but testing it and playing with it, the 8 is difficult to get to. It really is. Even with monsters, it's just kind of tricky. The break is very reliable, and I do love that, as you said, there's no restrictions on either of them. However, you know, they even think the going rate for standard break is 4 CP, so he's a little overcosted at 5. Like, if they paid nothing for their forward, or they paid 2, paying 5 to break it isn't really great. So I really think he wants to get that recursion. It's just hard to get there. And not only that, like, I played him with the Scions. It's hard to have a scenario where he breaks one thing and then whatever you revive also hits another thing. Like, it's usually just overkill. It's like, well, Zondi killed the one thing on the board, so I just revived other bodies. So I like him. I like the idea. I always love the push for mono, but with the break zone trigger being very difficult to pull off, I don't know, I'll probably put him at like a 2.5 for me. He's fine, but he wasn't the savior I kind of had hoped he would be.
I like him an awful lot. I really, really do. I wish he were a conditional auto rather than just an auto. I don't like that I have to get to 4 or 8 to get these wonderful effects, only to get to 4, or have 3 on field, play Zonde and be at 4, and like get a backup Hecaton, right? And then all of a sudden I'm at 3 and I get nothing.
Yep.
So I wish they would have been worded as conditional autos rather than autos, but that's just a gripe on my own side. Particularly if you do manage to get the 8, and then they're like, okay, here, 3-drop Ramu, get rid of that monster. Now you're at 7. That feels kind of bad. But I love them. I can't help but give them a 4 because I know, me personally, I am going to build around with this over and over and over. And because I run Lightning in so many decks, he is a card that I'm going to be thinking about. Is there a place for him in this deck, or is there not enough Lightning to do it that it's not worth it? What if I changed a few things? Would it make it? He's just one that I'm going to be building and playing with for the entire set, and I love cards like that. Even if it doesn't like change the way I run any deck right now. I love cards that just give me something that I'm passionate about. Purple cards that break things are my passion. I'm getting a t-shirt that says that. And I'm going to be building with him and around him and messing with him. And it's, what is the best for a full 3.5 months until we get our next set? I got to give it like a 4 just for that. Even though realistically, am I going to see it all that often in a competitive environment? Probably not. Are you going to run into him here and there? Kind of like the old Behemoth K thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this in a Nidhogg deck, and I'm gonna play this, break a forward, remove a forward, make them discard 2 cards, and then I'm just gonna walk away into the sunset because I have nothing more to accomplish in Final Fantasy. I like the potential of it. I like a good bait. I like a good high cost, high reward style card. Any cards that play cards is like kind of my favorite things. I'll talk about more of that when we get to our light and dark legends. But this card being in mono lightning and with all the mono support and all the backups that play themselves at a certain point, I don't think this card's unreasonable. This card is good across the board. It's almost always going to be a play a body, kill a thing, which plays in Final Fantasy pretty well. In at 5 is a little expensive for that, but with 9K body and it being able to say, all right, but if you have 3 more characters, you play Neo X Death to kill the rest of the board, the opponent's board, and their monsters. Yeah, bro. I don't know. This Chaos Arc as well looks super good.
Yeah, I mean, hell, we were spending 5 for Gilgamesh to sit there and break something whenever we wanted to.
Yeah, man.
We'll pay 5 for Xande to break something when it comes in, and maybe start a huge downhill trend for our opponent if we happen to have 8.
Yeah. I want to hit 8, and I want to cascade cards that play cards that play cards. Those are my favorite things in the whole world. This is a 4 out of 5.
I'm right there with you. Next up, we get into the water elements. Look at this mono art from 5 cost Gao forward. Cost is reduced by 1 for each monster you control. Notice no stipulation that it cannot become 0, which means this water forward goes in any monster deck that is planning to get up to 5 monsters at minimum put in there to make Gao free and not have to worry about the elements if you really wanted to get goofy. When Gao enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls. If its cost is equal to or less than the number of monsters you control, put it at the bottom of its owner's deck. The only way that gets better is if it was RFG. Bottom of the deck might as well be RFG in a lot of cases. Dull and active Gao to choose 1 monster until the end of the turn. It also becomes a forward with 8k power. So those monsters that can't be forwards, yeah, now they can. I'm going to go first and just keep this real fucking easy. 5 out of 5. This thing's going to be a maniac. Just watch. Travis, on to you.
5 out of 5 as well. Some of my favorite mono art. I absolutely adore it. I'm really surprised he can become free and they didn't have the restriction of like can't become 0. Removal's great. If you're playing water monsters, which those are the most popular water earth monsters, he's just a no-brainer. And a hidden little effect that I didn't even think about till Alex Hancock said it in his write-up.
I'm glad you were going to point that out.
You can target your opponent's monsters. So
you can make them forward for a board
forwards.
Clear or for summons and stuff. Yeah.
I hadn't really considered that. See, he's just if you're playing monsters, I don't see why you wouldn't play this guy. He's so good.
Yeah, this card's a 5 out of 5. It opens up really not just monster heavy decks, it opens up monster decks, right? We had mono earth monsters kind of become a thing with this last Mira, and Gao just feels like it's the extra icing on the cake for all of it. Both of those cards are in elements with fantastic monsters. I love all of that. I'm totally cool with being an enemy deck where you just play like literally more monsters than anything else. You play Gao, you play Mira, you just become the most annoying player at your locals. Double points though. It just means that my score about Neo X Death is even more accurate because, oh no, what are you going to do with all these monsters and this Gao and this Mira? I mean, okay, well, Mira's not going to... Wait, no, it RFGs. No, screw it. It does take care of Mira. Neo X Death's best card legend in this set, but Gao's really good too.
Oh, God, I hate you. 4-drop Ferris, a pirate / warrior of light. The power of job pirate forwards and card name Viking forwards. Very specific wording there. Job pirate forwards, card name Viking forwards. Other than Ferris you control, their power becomes 8k, and a 0-cost action ability to choose a summon or ability that is choosing only Ferris. You may choose another water forward you control. The newly chosen forward must be a valid choice. Dylan, you're up first.
I love this card. This card's neat. This card said, these little chump guys, 8k. You want to attack me? You're attacking my homie. You got to go through the crew before you get to the captain here. Art, stellar. Just lovely. Great waifu
art. The art is fantastic.
Yeah,
the art, the fact that we actually have can I take a second to say, I'm so glad that we're in this part of Final Fantasy where we're getting real art finally. You know what I mean? Consistently. Goodness. Thighs for days. Stats for days. I know people are going to talk me down from this here in a little bit, but I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. I just enjoy that this is one of those hard cards.
A 5 out of 5?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'll concede though that if I'm critically playing as a competitive player, it's maybe close to a 3.5 or a 4. But this is me shilling for this card because I enjoy everything.
Okay, that's fine because I totally shilled for like 3/4 of a point for Irvine. So
I'm going to give it a whole 1.5 for this whole exact reason. I like it that much.
Yeah, I think it's neat. And it does kind of open up the what if scenario with Vikings and pirates. But honestly, I think there's a better Viking pirate enabler in this set that probably pairs better with the Fire Ferris, and you just start pirate storming shit for days. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I still have to mess around with it. I know one of our locals he's always been into like the pirate storm deck, so I think that's one of like the first 2 or 3 he's going to mess with. So I'll have information on this soon. I do like what it kind of opens up. I think its action ability is actually kind of clunky. Like it has to be targeting Ferris and only Ferris, and then you have to have the water forward that it's able to be targeted by that thing as well to move it over to, which kind of makes me go, why didn't you just take 3 damage and throw the fiend out? Like, why didn't you just do it that way?
No, okay, you're right. It loses to Neo X death. It can only really be a 4 tops, but
I'm gonna give. I'll go with your realistic. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. It's one of those cards that enables something, and maybe that something can become something strong. We'll have to see as the opus goes. I do think it's kind of fun to play with Vikings again and, be like, oh, let's see what Vice Kings can do now that we can make them 8K instead of 3K. Does that make it better or worse? I don't know. Like, you would think power going up makes things better, but I think we've been kind of removed to power really mattering for a while now. I don't know. I'll give it a 3.5 because it's going to be interesting to mess around with it.
I will give this card the same rating as its action ability, as 0. This card's terrible.
Wow.
I've played with Vikings a lot. It doesn't do anything. When you have protection, there has to be a reason to protect that card. If you think of Opus 5 Y'shtola, I know my buddy who played Mono Fire hated that card, but the reason it was immune to damage was so you could then use its effect at the right time. You're protecting a Ferris who doesn't do anything. She doesn't give you card advantage. She doesn't make the board bigger. Yeah, she makes some weenies 8Ks, but there was a reason Vice Kings was ran as it was so long ago. Like, paying 4 for this feels terrible. Why couldn't it just be card name and job pirate and card name and job Viking? Like, why did they make it so specific? Sorry.
Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. But especially as a legend, like, maybe one day if they just GM enough Viking pirates that it matters. Sorry, I'm allergic to bad cards. Maybe then, but like it does nothing. It feels terrible to play. The other pirate enabler in the set is way better. Like, he honestly should have been the legend over her. Like, I just don't get this card at all. I think it's bad.
Wow, that was quite the disparity there. 7-drop Warrior of Light. We bring it to the light elements, friendos. The light element legend. 7-drop Warrior of Light. When Warrior of Light enters the field, due to your cast, so no, you can't cheat them. Reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Play up to 2 characters of cost 3, specifically 3, among them onto the field, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. It also has a special for just a discard of a Warrior of Light until the end of the turn. Warrior of Light and the forwards of cost 3 you control gain. This forward cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities. Okay, I just got to say, this is one of those nutty cards that I'm going to love building around. That I don't know if that means it's going to be good or not, but like back in the Agrias days, dude, it was like, how RNG and high rolly can we make it? Let's see. And we just run out Agrias and see what happens. And thank God we have that Renoa in our hand to do it again, And I feel like this is, when I first read it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. And so is Axstar, by the way. Like, these are a couple of cards that are going to have a blast with this. I'm certainly going to build around it and mess around with it an awful lot. It was very, very good in pre-release because I was able to build my decks to 40 cards exactly, of which like 24 were 3 costs.
Oh, nice.
With this particular set. and then was also able to have 18, various targets for other things. So this set was, we maybe that's a discussion for another time. Like, is it a good sealed set or not? Because there were some conflicting opinions even in my own local scenes at all three. But this was very, very fun to play. I can't wait to get this thing in standard. Now, is it going to be good? I don't know. Like, how good was Axstar? Like, how good was building a deck around 3 costs, specifically for Axstar? Now, yes, Axstar had some success in like different Magisa builds and things like that when it came to Nats and competitive environments. So maybe this guy has a place in competitive environments if you're willing to build around Axstar to that degree. And it's light, which already has the benefit over Agrius of meaning you can try it in any element, where Agrius really, you had to go a little heavy into water just in case things went bad on your mulligans. You don't necessarily have that restriction with Warrior of Light. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's strong. I think it's going to be fun to build around. I think we have decks that capitalize on 3 costs anyway, with or without Axstar. And if we already have those, I think there's a place for this to be played around with in the competitive environment. I'll give it a 4 out of 5, Dylan.
I was just saying I love cards that play cards.
Yes, you did.
And this card says, play 7, roll your deck. Play cards that play cards that play cards. I love this. The fact that it's 2 is, I honestly, for my money, I kind of wish it was actually 3. If it just, I know that's way too busted, but let me have it. Just let me have it. The Ultimate Shield part, this is a card that you kind of unfortunately really want to run 2 to 3 of because of its ability, and you want to be slamming that pretty early on to go crazy on it. So the S ability is pretty damn good considering the fact that you are probably going to load up your deck with this card. By all stretches in the imagination, I'm still having to say a 7 CP light card that I'd run maybe 3 of, probably 3 of, is like, I can't possibly give it a 5 on that, no matter how good the wording of the language is. But for fun value, oh my god, I love cards that play this. You play this and then you play Agrius, or not Agrius, you play this into Axstar, into, let's do Riku, right on. And then let's just trigger both of those abilities as they come in. You bring that in, you get a card from the break zone. If you didn't have a card in your hand to play from Axstar, you just get it back from Riku. Oh my god, I don't know if you know this, I really like those cards. I make a lot of decks about 3-star, about Axstar. No, this is my favorite card of the set. For the amount of stuff that I like to play. Like, this is my type of Final Fantasy right here. So, for my personal opinion and flavor, 5. For a critical review on it, it's probably close to a 4, because that light 7 is big.
Travis.
Yeah, I will also give it a 5. This is very good. I kind of just brushed it off as another like Unga Bunga card, but it is Unga Bunga and it's very good as that. I just put a build by Richie in the chat. You can check that out. You want to play this early, and specifically what makes this so good is because the new Princess Goblin can search it. If you just had to naturally draw into this, the consistency, everything just goes way down, but it is very easy to hard mulligan for the Goblin, get her, you play him turn 2, and I mean, God, someone did, they played it and they put out like Bosch and then White Tiger Lysine Nimbus against me. Another one, they got out a backup that got him a forward, and then some other thing, like, it's just so strong. And again, it's one of those, you want to go Unga Bunga with it. You want to do it early. You want to rush people with it. If you're waiting until way late in the game, probably not going to do as much. It's great with Gilgamesh BE because you can use the special to load the break zone with a light card. And the special is great too when you drop that free Axstar and they're like, well, I got to kill that thing. And they're like, yeah, actually you can't target it. It's good. Play it early, search it out with the Goblin. You're going to have a great time with this, and just your opponent won't, but yeah, you'll have a great time with it. So for what it does, it's a 5.
Yeah, chat saying Princess Goblin best card in the set. I mentioned Princess Goblin as my favorite princess in the set over the Legend. And yeah, Princess Goblin is like one of those cards that just has my mind going in 15 different ways of things to do with that, with the flexibility of the search that it has and everything. And thus we get to it, gentlemen. The last one, and probably one of the first ones spoiled, if I remember right. If not the first, right?
Yeah, this was the first one released.
I think so, yeah.
3-drop Jack Garland, the Sopfo dude himself. He's also card named Garland in all situations. Brave, and when he enters the field, go get yourself a category Sopfo. That's Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, if you don't know. Forward and add it to your hand. And dull to choose a dark character, break it. Jack Garland deals you a point of damage. So yes, Jack Garland can punch Chaos in the face. And in a pinch, I guess could punch himself in the face if there was a beneficial reason to maybe duck some side effect of a summon or an ability that was targeting him. He can go ahead and punch himself in the face if you really, really needed to. Travis, it's on you though. What's your Chaos hating boy?
So
Where do you put
I
him?
don't have much interest in the Strangers of Paradise just because I didn't play that game. It didn't look very interesting. However, I find this card kind of interesting. Very rarely is like the searcher for a category on a forward like this, especially one that fits in any element. So
Right.
he if you were playing any of the Strangers of Paradise, the Ash, the Neon, any of those, Jack is a no-brainer. You have to put him in there. Like you said, his action ability probably won't come up too much. I do feel it's a bit wasted for signature art, especially because it almost even just looks like a screenshot from the game. Like I kind of wish they had done some more original art for it. So I kind of hate that there was the signature card. But if you're playing the SOP stuff, he's just a no-brainer. You kind of have to run him. So he seems like a very solid 4 out of 5 if that's what you're going for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it is, there's going to be very, very few decks that are going to run him that aren't a little heavy on the Sopfo, right? Like you either have picked one of those forwards that you want to build around a little bit or complement something you've already had built, and so why not throw a Jack Garland in there? Or you're going full on Sopfo, right? And Jack Garland just enables you to get whatever one you want at whatever time you need. It is weird for me that the action ability deals damage. It was kind of like, it's already restrictive enough. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember the last meaningful game that I've played where I had a dark character and they had a dark character at the exact same time that I would want to take off. I mean, maybe you start getting into like those chaos situations, maybe, because that's been flying around in the competitive season a little bit, but even then, the timing's like got to line up freaking perfectly for you to not take the chaos and arc beating that you were about to take anyway, just because you had Jack Garland on the field.
Yeah. Unknown said in
so
the chat, he was like, yeah, why doesn't it deal your opponent a point of damage? That would make way more sense.
It would make a thematic sense, but then I think his cost 3 is ridiculous at that point.
I gotcha.
At least that's my opinion. Like, I'm just weird with the damage on there at all. That said, of course, if you were going to go Sopfo with him, or maybe you just 1 or 2 Sopfo forwards with him in there to search it, there's nothing saying you couldn't run like an extremely high X-Burst count deck and take advantage of it too, right? Like start getting into free play upon free play upon free search and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I kind of dig him. I like it thematically. I think it's very neat that he gets rid of dark characters. If you played the game, that makes a lot of sense. And could take himself out if he needed to. Thematically, again, that makes a lot of sense, but it's like a 2.5 or a 3. You got to be willing to not only want to run him as a dark card, but run him because there's 3 to 6 other cards you really want to put in your deck, and he'll enable you to search them. So that kind of narrows the focus of use for me to like a 2.5.
So if we're saying that its main target, and at least our foreseeable meta is chaos, of course. Is this card being on the field and then waiting a turn and they play a chaos and then they can't steal it and then you get to punch them in the face and take a point of damage really that worth it? I don't think so.
Especially when they're going to respond with the arc over the top anyway.
They're gonna kill them on the stack. So no, what does this kill? Like, on top of all of that, this card is this card gets to be as good as the cards it searches. And the Sopfo cards, there's some like good ones, but there's not like great ones, There's not ones that are like boom, boom, and then you're like, deal with it. This isn't like Griever Ultimecia, boom, deal with it. This is stuff like I could let Jack Garland sit on the board for a while with his smug aura, and I'm okay. He's a dark 9K brave, and I can't even play regular Garlands, my favorite card, as we all know, because Jack Garland is. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what other cards named Garland there are that are really even worth playing or even looking at. This card's bad. My mom always told me not to talk to strangers, and I'm convinced I shouldn't talk to this card either. So I'm gonna give it like a 1. Ugh. And I'm gonna pull it too. The full art. This is gonna be the first one I pull. In my fucking packs. I know it. Like,
let's go to love it or leave it. Love it or leave it is the way we end every episode of the Relic Grind here. It's where normally I give you something Square Enix related, a game, a feature, a press release, something they did or said, and ask you, do you love it, want more of it, or leave it, set it aside. But we know we always change that up here for the Final Fantasy trading card game Legend Set Review. And we ask all the hosts to give you the one legend you love and the one legend that you will leave. I'm going to go first because I think mine are really obvious. Really obvious. I love you, Irvine. Shadow, bye, buddy. Travis, off to you.
I'm gonna be kind of weird here, and I'm gonna make it the same card for both. Neo X Death. You had the right idea.
No.
You just botched the design. So Neo X Death.
What do you got, Dylan? As you let me go to this shot since you're like hanging down at the bottom of your camera.
Yeah, I know. Here, let me stand up here a little bit more. Yeah, I love Warrior of Light. No questions asked. Yeah, dude. You know what? Shadow already got beat up on. I'll beat on Princess Sarah. Go do nothing more.
Go do nothing more in my card box.
Yes.
That's going to do it for us here on the Relic Grind. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let us know your favorites in the comments below and how wrong we were, because I'm sure you can't wait to let us know. Travis, until next time, where can everybody find you, sir?
Check me out on my YouTube channel, Travis Rudros Pfeiffer. Can look up Ghost Radiate as well. You'll find it that way. Technically, I have a Twitter, but you're probably better to get a hold of me on Discord. I've got my own Discord. I hang out in some other random Discords as well. So those are the best ways. Facebook message is always good too.
Dylan.
You can catch me over at the FN podcast, where I do a bunch of sometimes Final Fantasy stuff like months ago. It's been a second. Don't go looking for new content right now. But I'm going to spoil a sneak peek content. So as you guys know, we got a teams tournament coming up for Winter Cup. Yep. So whenever we start to get some of the info in, and I will, because I always do, we're going to do a ranking. We're going to sit there and rank the teams before the match gets done. I'm putting that out there. None of this has been confirmed by any of the TO staff, but I'm going to get it done. And you can catch that on the FN podcast. Otherwise, hit me up on Twitter or Facebook. That's the best way to reach me at all times.
Gonna make it happen. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it as always. That's going to do it for us. I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at Magic Man, but more importantly, follow at RC Raideo on all the different places. In fact, if you go to the website right there on your screen, in the upper right-hand corner is all the socials. You can come hang out with us. It's always a pleasure talking Final Fantasy TCG. We'll see you next time. Later.